Good evening and welcome all to this wonderful episode of Tuesday Talk. We are coming to you live after the Silverstone GP, which had a fantastic race over the weekend. We had crashes, we had last lap drama, and we had a lot of things which kept us on the edge of our seats. With you today, we have the two panelists, or probably the co host for this wonderful episode which we have planned. And that is none other than Ashwin. Ashwin, say hi to our viewers.
Hi guys.
And next is from the racing country, from the God's own land, that is Satya from Kerala. Satya, say hi to the viewers. Hi.
Hello.
So, for those people who feel that, okay, you don't have the normal Vivek here, that is mainly because we are having this experimental show with you, which we will try to process. We, once again, from the Toast the Talk network, are here for the Silverstone GP's review. So, Ashwin, let's start with you. Your opinions on the Silverstone GP.
I think coming to Silverstone, one of the for me, the biggest thing which I was looking forward to is seeing what has Mercedes bought in this time. Because there were a lot of promises from the last GP. There were talks about big upgrades. The one last upgrade, which after which Toto had himself said that now after this, if this fails, we are going to go after 2023. So that was the biggest expectation I was having to see what happened, and I feel they have delivered. Because seeing how Hamilton pulled off during the qualifying, maybe not so successful with respect to the FP3, but definitely FP2 showed a lot of promise, especially the first start. The way he pulled it right into the first, that showed the Mercedes had improved a lot, and that is a team to watch out for. Bit unlucky for Russell because he could have added on to the arguments I had, but pretty much I think the biggest thing for me to look forward when it comes to Silverstone was, or what is Mercedes bringing on the table this time. So that really delivered. And yes, where was Ferrari, and are we going to take it forward from the current fight? So all those were the first set of expectations I had. And pretty much it did promise to what I was kind of hoping from the Silverstone GP this time.
Yeah, that's true. We could see that, okay, the Mercedes car were faster and their package was working. Satya, what's your view on that?
Oh, I totally agree with Ashwin on that point because Silverstone is the first proper circuit that we are having. All the other GP so far, apart from Spain, apart from Barcelona, are all street circuits. And Barcelona again is a test track, so people know that like the back of their hand. Silverstone is the first proper test for all the cars that were involved, especially Mercedes. And I feel that this can still turn into a three team race, given the fact that Ferrari is shooting themselves in the foot half the time. Or I would rather say 75% of the time, Ferrari shoots themselves in the foot. Moreover, this race was just packed. There was so much of action happening in the midfield, but that could not be shown because there was the same amount of drama happening for the lead, which is not usual. If you look at all the other Grand Prix, even in this season, they would show the starting they would show the starting leaders fighting for a few rounds, and then they would move on to the midfields because there is a lot of happening in the midfield. Like for example, I believe there was a point where the Hasses, they switched places, but that was not even spoken about or shown. Similarly, the crash between Sonoda and Gasly, again, it came in replays and was mentioned much later because the fight in the lead was just that exciting. And the last 12 laps, oh my God.
Thanks, Satya. We'll come back to the last 12 laps soon. But let's talk about the Mr. Consistent, whose race was unfortunately ruined with a slew of accidents. And it also damaged the reputation of Nicholas Latifi, who was also a Mr. Consistent. So two Mr. Consistent lost in a race. Twice a row, Silverstone has produced some massive accidents. What's your take on it?
Well, Latifi's, let's start with Latifi because I really felt bad for him. The moment the entire crash scenario happened, the one person who probably, took the entire weekend on his shoulder, announcing to the world, hey, don't count me out. Because I think, though we do call him Mr. Consistent for a very wrong reason, um, he really tried to up his game. He tried to prove to the world that it's not yet time to count him out. There is something for him to deliver. But sad. I mean, complete unlucky, and I would say sad because I was really hoping that maybe he was going to pull out something surprise in this GP. But what happened? Talking about Russell, as I said in the opening comments, it was really unfortunate because having seen what Lewis was doing with the Mercedes, Russell could have done much better, having seen what he did in the last GPs until now. So that was a bit of a miss out. Just within the first 5 seconds, we lost that guy out. So that's my initial take, that those two people were really unlucky with what happened. A complete
It is a shame.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. Especially for Russell, wherein his streak of always ending in top 5 is over. And that is something that was being hyped about. He was slowly transitioning from Mr. Saturday to Mr. Consistent. And coming to Latifi, so although I do call him King Latifi, but that is more as a joke because I do feel he's not performing up to the level as Albon does. Albon has been showing that the car can do so much more, while Latifi most of the times ends up in P16. And this race was a chance for him to show that he could at least get some points, but he still managed to finish P11. So I don't have much expectations on Latifi as such, but when it comes to Russell, it's just a shame.
Yeah, truly that Russell lost his top 5 streak. But one person who was most injured amongst others was Albon, and he was in a collision with Guan Yu. Now that crash, if you had seen it from the replays, it was terrible. Now, from your point of view, how do you think that the FIA should look into the safety of the drivers?
Well, yeah, I think with respect to safety standards, I'm not sure how much it will help Albon at this point, because if you really look, he just was trying to save himself from the major crash that just happened in front. But if you really ask me in a nutshell, what happened in the first 5 seconds of the race, what I feel, it was a series of bad starts that really ended up making more of a mess here. If you saw, Hamilton just short pass because Perez and Leclerc had a bad start. And the same was happening in the mid and Sulas in the back. And all those eventually, Albon kind of got stuck in the mess of all those bad starts, where he ended up, having all those multiple hits from other people trying to avoid. So to me, from FIA standards, I don't think because this was a bit more of a driver error, according to me. But if you really go down to what happened to Zhou, then I believe the halo again, came down. We spoke about it in the last season during Max and Hamilton crash, that halo just saved Hamilton by whisker. The same happened. This was a more brutal crash. And you saw that somehow debates of whether halo is good or not, does it appeal aesthetically or not, it kind of saved the day today. So that's my initial take. With respect to safety standard, would it have helped Albon in some way? I really feel it's questionable.
Valid. Halo crushed the game for its opponents. Now, amongst the points of talking of the Silverstone GP, there were two people who I wanted to mention specially. One is Mick Schumacher. He is in points finally, my friends. And finally, he was actually racing against Max Verstappen, trying to bullfight him at one point of time. But yeah, Mick Schumacher, and behind him is Vettel. Now, all of us know how good their relationship is. Any points on how you feel on Mick Schumacher getting his first points of the race season?
Well, so Mick getting his first points is actually a great thing. I mean, every rookie wants to get his first points. But I would still not put too much of hope on Mick as such, and I'll tell you why. If you look at where Magnussen is this race he was a bit unlucky. But if you look throughout the season so far, if you compare Magnussen and Mick Schumacher, Magnussen seems to be miles ahead, wherein it gives you an idea that the car can perform bit more than what Mick actually is delivering. So while it is great that he's able to get points, he has to do this in a more consistent manner and because I believe Magnussen finished P10 and Mick Schumacher finished P8 in this race. But in the previous races, Magnussen has been able to finish much ahead of him. If Mick can keep this performance up, then it would be a great deal. Then it would be pretty good, wherein Haas can actually rely on on Schumacher as well, as much as they rely on Magnussen. But apart from the fact that he got his first points, he needs to be able to do this again and again on a much regular basis.
True that. Yeah,
I
Ashwin.
kind of agree with Satya because yes, he showed some spark of what he can do. Definitely the duel with Max at the last couple of laps, that was also bringing the excitement out. But trust me, when I look at the overall performance from the start, just like how Satya mentioned, there were a lot which we can all agree that Mick needs to learn a lot. Maybe, being with Magnussen is helping him in some way, but there is still a long way for Mick overall. But really happy that he got
I
his
agree
first points.
because we seem to be giving much more leeway to we seem to be giving more leeway to make compared to the amount of pressure that we gave to Sonoda as well as what we are giving to Zhou Guanyu this year. Last year, Sonoda, Mick, and even Nikita Mazepin, all of them were under pressure, but somehow Mick was being given a leeway, which this year we can't do the same this year. He has to be able to perform at the same level or somewhere near Magnussen to be able to say that okay, he deserves a seat next year as well.
Valid. And now, before I take you through the last few laps of intense racing, there have been a change in fortunes for many drivers this race. You could have seen that Perez had pitted at the start and people were thinking him out of contention before Max had a puncture and the entire statistics sprung to Perez's favor. The same happened with Leclerc and Sainz, with Sainz getting his first race victory of his career. Now, any talks on the drivers who had performed great, and of course, for those who had a little bit of misfortune in Ferrari and in Red Bull. So, Satya, you might start.
So kudos to Sainz because this is his first pole and his first win, both at the same time, which is a complete what is it? That is not usually done with most. Like it is very minimal that happens. Apart from that, he was also. It's funny because he seemed to trust his strategy more than he was trusting on Ferrari's strategy. Like, for example, when Ferrari told him maintain 10 car lengths with Leclerc so that, you don't immediately overtake him. And he's like, I can't do that. Hamilton is right on my tail. I am going to overtake. So, similar, if you notice, the same thing happened in Monaco as well, where he was trying to tell his own strategy. So, it's funny that he seems to trust himself more than he's actually trusting Ferrari's strategy, which in a way is good because Ferrari seem to not at times be very conservative and not sure what they are doing. And for Perez, what a drive from the bottom all the way to P2. Doesn't and the safety car was just point perfect for him because he had to change his tires. That it was the time and just when his tires were seemed to be giving away, safety car, pit and come out. Beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree with you, Satya, because like it reminds me of the 2016 time when Sebastian Vettel used to dictate the strategy in Ferrari in order to go for victory. So it's always Ferrari guys, please listen to your drivers. They are a better strategist compared to your strategist. Ashwin, your take on the Ferrari Red Bull strategy?
I think Red Bull, Horner definitely would have had his head scratching right from the start because one, Perez dropping out in the back because of the initial damage, and then suddenly Max complaining over the complaining saying that his car is not able to deliver and the damage in the flow and all. But having said that, Perez, what an animal. I mean, he's kind of making a habit of this because if, I think this is probably the third time he has been sent to the back at the start of the race and then ends up finishing at the podium. We
Yep.
have seen him do that 2 years back. We saw him do it last year. Now he's done it again this season. So that guy is, I believe he's one potential driver, who's one driver whose potential is still not tapped in by Red Bull much. Uh, but again, that's again the call from the team, and we sometimes have to, listen. Coming to the Ferrari, that was a very interesting point, which Satya mentioned there. It's some, I think, just like how you mentioned, they're kind of ending up shooting into their own foot many times in this season, and that kind of cost them a couple of races. Still, somewhere there is some confusion on how they need to, handle these two drivers. We saw that in the initial 15 laps. Once the race restarted, there was times when Sainz was asking the team that let him pass because he feels Leclerc is having a damage. He may not be able to hold on to the lead. But there was a delay from the entire team management thinking what should be done next, how they need to play this out. So these are very critical instances because we saw Hamilton was chasing from the back. We know how Hamilton attacks when he knows he has the power to do it. So with so much factors in play, there was definitely I believe the team of Ferrari needs to come sit down and figure out how they are going to handle this in the upcoming races because trust me, sooner or later, we are going to see a three-way championship fight, and that's going to happen whether we like it or not.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Because Hamilton was putting faster lap on faster lap. And at that, and Hamilton was like his old self, wherein Leclerc sets a fast lap and that is immediately beaten by Hamilton. And Leclerc keeps saying, please just let me go. He is faster than Sainz. And instead of just letting him go, Ferrari is like, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Which they
You
seem
know,
to make the same call even in Monaco again, right? Where they could have pit him much earlier, but they chose to wait. While Sainz decided no, he was trying to dictate his own strategy. Leclerc is very polite at times. That is one thing that I was even when he was actually trying to scream at the engineer, he was doing it so politely.
yeah, true. But you know what? If Ricardo's triple overtake in Baku was fun to watch, so was Hamilton's triple overtake in Silverstone's last corner. And that was pretty intriguing because that was the one time when I didn't want the TV directors to cut from the front of the pack to show me the midfield battle. Because at the front, five drivers were pushing fearlessly. They were pushing their limits of each other to see who comes out on the top. We had a fantastic battle for the top five. Ashwin, Satya, your take on that?
if you really want to see the testament on how exciting the front row battle was, we have been talking about all other drivers today, but remember one thing: Sebastian Vettel did a, did finish in the top 10, and that was one of the most beautiful drive he has done this season. But trust me, we missed the entire excitement on the TV or on the screen because that exciting was what was happening in the top five. Talk about the triple overtake. We saw it right. We saw the hint right at the start, right? We just saw how quickly Hamilton went from P5 to P3. But sad we had to go for another restart where he couldn't replicate it. But again, towards the end, he did it. He tried it again. When Perez and Leclerc was busy battling out to get that P2, Hamilton just made his way in. And, for a moment, I did feel that we are going to see Hamilton at P2. But again, Perez bought the fight back. So the excitement that I think when I look back at this entire Silverstone GP yesterday, I believe right from the first lap to the last lap, we were on our seats. We were trying to see what's going to happen next. Be it strategy calls, be it those overtakes, be those sudden, the sudden puncher that came in out of nowhere. It was just, picking every team order. All the team strategies were probably all thrown out of the roof. They were all coming out with new strategies to see how it's going to help the team score better points. So to me, trust me, there was a lot more of action that we could have witnessed, but unfortunately or fortunately, the front action was too good to be, ignored by the TV people.
Oh, absolutely. So it is still in my head wherein first they're talking about Perez and Leclerc. All of a sudden, he says, "Well, now Hamilton is overtaking." And then the next line, and here comes Alonso. Like, at one point, it looked like Alonso was like neck to neck with Hamilton. And then Hamilton overtakes Leclerc and just drives away. And then there is a fight for P4 with Leclerc, Alonso, and then I think it was Norris. Yeah, Norris was also there. It was, and everyone was just neck and neck. The last 12 laps, because there are times when Silverstone just produces last lap excitements. Like, for example, if you go back to 2020, what had happened was like in the starting, there was some excitement, then it was just a boring race. Towards the end, Hamilton's tire punctures, and then he's limping through the last lap. Last year, there was a accident. There was an incident with Verstappen and Hamilton, and then the rest of the race was just Hamilton trying to catch up with Leclerc. But this race, I really want to watch the highlights because the entire race should be a highlight over here.
Truly said, Satya. Now, I just want 3 words to describe the British GP for this year from both of you. So, Satya, you might go first.
3 words. Best so far.
Wow. Ashwin?
I would say entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. Right from
Yeah,
P1 to from the first lap to the last.
true. It was full of entertainment. It was full of drama. To be precise, I thought it was a Netflix Drive to Survive script going on. It had such high packed drama. Now, one final question to both of you is, what do you think about the new regulation which FIA has brought for porpoising, which will come into effect from France? So, your view on it.
Well, so the new regulation is just basically talking about how much of weight, how much of up and down the car goes, that frequency. And that is necessary because the teams seem to be not giving too much attention to the driver's health as compared to seeing if the car goes fast. And this was very evident. I think it was Baku, wherein Hamilton could not get out from the car because the car was porpoising in such a rigorous manner. So they are not trying to curb the other teams who have got it right. What they are trying to do is making sure that the teams who got it wrong are trying to develop, but not at the cost of the driver's health. So it is definitely necessary. And but seeing that Mercedes seems to have got an idea about their car, I think it might not affect them too much anymore. But hopefully not.
Ashwin?
Well, I have a bit of a different take because again, it was a big surprise for me when I saw that Mercedes was literally struggling with the porpoising, whereas I saw Red Bull address it, I saw Alpine address it. So that's not something we have seen in the last 5 or probably let's say the last decade where Mercedes was just dominating like anything. So it was a quite surprise for me that they actually struggled to address that issue. But having said that, yes, as Satya mentioned, eventually it all comes down to the health of the drivers. I kind of felt there were a couple of instances where FIA is probably not too concerned about how the impact of these things are, especially with the delay that happened. I think the amount of porpoising which the Ferrari had, the Mercedes was showing in the initial races, that should have sent out the red flags initially to FIA to come out with such a decision much earlier. But it didn't happen. They were kind of waiting it out. They were probably point out saying that, hey, other people are solving it, you are not. Again, now we do have another, we also had an initial investigation running in asking whether the RB flows, were they legally now? Are they? Because maybe that was the way they solved porpoising, but are they? So some regulation, yes, some direction was needed, something that gonna standardize so that, overall, all the 20 drivers are going to be in good health. So that is definitely a welcome decision, but I'm really looking forward to see how will it affect the entire, the championship scenario right now, because somewhere I do feel it's gonna favor some, it may take away the advantage for few others.
What you said,
Ashwin,
Ashwin?
actually, you are right. They should have come out with this much earlier, as still waiting for, because I believe they came out with this regulation once the drivers started complaining. Once the drivers were complaining, the drivers started pushing for it. It's only when they came out with this regulation. When they seen the porpoising, they should have made this standardization much earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, Satya and Ashwin, I have a different opinion of this. They were just waiting for our Toast the Talk episode to come on the driver's ill effect of porpoising, and then they took our action, which means the FIA and the Formula One authorities do consider us a serious contenders in their rules and regulations. With that, the upcoming week, we have the Austrian GP. Your top three picks for the Austrian GP. We'll start with Ashwin.
You mean who's gonna hit up at top three?
Yeah.
Very difficult, trust me, if you really ask. But still, if you ask me by name, definitely we're gonna have Max in the top three. He's not gonna give out easy this time. I'm really hoping to see Russell make some kind of impact this time, because he is definitely a wounded lion at this stage. He doesn't want to give out that P5, so he's gonna bring in something action. And the other person I'm gonna look out is Perez. I just really hope he's not going to give away his momentum at this stage. So Perez, Max, and Russell for me.
That's two Red Bull, one Mercedes. Satya.
Well, for me, I do go with the two Red Bull part because Austria is a Red Bull track and it is their home ground. So, and if you look at the previous few years, Red Bull has been very strong in that circuit. So I feel Max would definitely top it, but I think Leclerc might try and come back, and then Perez would be in third.
Great. So that's again two Red Bulls, one Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Considering that, okay, the way Ferraris are doing, I would go with Sainz, Leclerc, and probably Max. That's my top three picks. And with that, I would like to thank both of you for coming and taking your precious time out for this wonderful episode. To our viewers out there, we have the wonderful India versus England's fifth test going on, and our Toast the Toss team would soon come up with an episode for the same. With that, as usual, like, share, subscribe, and comment on anything and everything. If you felt what we delivered was good, comment. If you felt what we delivered was bad, comment. We want your comments, we want your like, we want your share. With that, it's the team of Toast the Talk signing out of the Silverstone GP review, and we meet you once again within a week's time from our locations in India for the review of the Austrian GP. Signing off today is Vignesh along with Ashwin and Satya. Bye bye.
Bye.